So I just saw the third entry to the Fantastic Beasts series, The Secrets of Dumbledore. I wonder what those secrets are, J.K. Rowling. I was confused, bewildered and baffled watching the Fantastic Beasts series. We're 3 movies in and I still don't know what the heck is going on. In the Harry Potter series, everything was set up from the Philosopher's Stone. He's the boy who lived and must defeat the Dark Lord. It's simple, but effective. I think the difference between those movies and these Fantastic Beasts is that one invites you into the fantasy world and the other is just... What made Harry Potter so successful was that when you see these movies, you can't help but put yourself in Harry's shoes and imagine that it's you in this world of wonder and magic. When you watch Fantastic Beasts, you don't want to be Newt, or this guy. Newt was supposed to be the main character in these series, and he's just not that interesting at all. The Secrets of Dumbledore isn't even about him. He didn't need to be in this movie as a lead. He would work a lot more effectively as a supporting character. It seemed like Warner Brothers realised that maybe a guidebook isn't the best plot to turn into a multi-million-dollar franchise. They've shied away from the Fantastic Beasts and focused on Grindelwald and Dumbledore's storyline, which in hindsight was probably the most ideal way to make a spin-off series. But now it's become twisted and distorted with Newt's presence and the rest, that the narrative is no longer based on cohesive storytelling, but just vibes. The studio is just flushing out these movies with as much Harry Potter memorabilia as possible. Remember Hedwig's theme every time they cut to a wide shot of Hogwarts? Remember Hogsmeade? Remember the house elves? Remember when Dumbledore wasn't gay? This movie and The Crimes of Grindelwald have been really hard to follow because the writers seem torn between the Fantastic Beasts premise and the whole political nonsense called the International Confederation of Wizards. The two never blended together. If this was just a one-off movie, it would be a lot easier to follow. But because 2 movies have already been made, and to be honest, I forgot most of what happened, there are other storylines that don't pay off or fit into this new one. How is it that out of all of these characters full of magical powers, that the best character is a muggle? Seriously, I feel like he's the only one bringing charisma and charm to the series. The characters of Harry Potter is what held the story up if the scenes were less exciting than the rest. So when The Secrets of Dumbledore fails to deliver the excitement of its action and effects, the atmosphere really drops to the bottom of the ocean because the characters are the deadweight. Whenever someone was in serious danger, you never once felt worried for them. Not because of plot armour, but because there just wasn't enough development written into them. The dialogue didn't help. When you have a group that's been around for 3 movies, you would expect some form of witty banter to spark around, but there's none of that. The only one trying is Kowalski, but everyone else are way too stilted and dour. The Harry Potter movies were able to balance the dark moments and the more light-hearted moments. You didn't get any of that from Secrets of Dumbledore. The only thing I did find charming were the 2 creatures that were with Newt. Their scenes together were amusing and brought the film to life when it was most needed. A scene involving these crab creatures were also one of the standout moments of the movie. The creature design in the Fantastic Beasts series is undeniably brilliant. I can't really fault the technical aspects of these movies. The magic and spells were also fairly entertaining, though there could have been 1 or 2 new incantations said aloud. They brought back several familiar spells, but there could have been a little more originality here that would really enrich this world. Because this is set 80 years before the events of Harry Potter, there could have been some outdated spells, or spells that were once legal but now forbidden, because law is ever changing. They wanted to focus on the time period and political events of the time, so there are scenes that take place in Berlin to reflect on the rise of the Nazis and fascism, but these themes of nationalism weren't translated to the audience with any clear direction. You can compare Grindelwald's ideals to Hitler's in the sense that he aspires to dominate all non-purebloods, just like Hitler only desired to see a world in which people of Aryan blood would rule this world. However, this theme is heavy to tread upon and you don't feel any sense of fear or threat from these people. It's all too muddled, and when you cut to the political scenes, it was just begging for cricket noises. Grindelwald as a villain had been described as an incredibly violent and demonic figure in the Harry Potter books, and here it just feels very flat. I don't blame Mads Mikkelsen for this. He did the best with what he was given, and the same for Johnny Depp in the previous one. Mikkelsen's performance was quite different to Depp. They certainly made him more human-like, but you just couldn't grasp at what made him one of the most notorious wizards in history, like the books referenced. We could have gotten some backstory of his youth. It could have shown him how he was expelled from Durmstrang for using dangerous experiments and attacks on his peers. We would have had a better understanding of why he grew up to become such a depraved human. The story would have worked a lot better with just Grindelwald and Dumbledore. Their story carried a lot of emotion and tragedy, which was only briefly depicted. Dumbledore was not in this movie as much, considering his name was in the title. Jude Law does a solid job in portraying a younger Albus, but you got the sense that he was all too familiar to the older Dumbledore. In a way this worked, but there needed to be more pain and anguish residing inside of him. A more insightful backstory would have been portraying an even younger Dumbledore and Grindelwald. It adds passion and sentiment to the characters, and when the audience see this, they would have a far more engaging response to the story as a whole. But that was down to the fact that both of their scenes were short-lived, as the movie would cut to the other characters who had even longer scenes. And that was the most irritating part of this movie. If Dumbledore wasn't the main character, then who was it? Because it can't have been Newt. Anyone could have played his role. They tried to justify that he's necessary to Dumbledore's plan, but he's not. None of them are. Why did Kowalski need to be here? He has no supernatural power. The only magic he has to offer is charisma, something everyone else seems to be lacking in. Although the lore and locations were quite limited and dull in this one, the creativity and composition of bringing the creatures to life are without question the highlight of this spin-off franchise. The drawings from the guidebook and the art department have provided an excellent foundation for the visual effects team to work on. But that's about all J.K. Rowling's guidebook could offer for these movies in the first place. I've been a huge fan of the Harry Potter books since I was a kid. They've been a huge inspiration to me and many of the people my age. I would go as far as to say that Rowling's style of writing is by far one of the most exciting and thrilling reads, and I don't see many novels that would be able to match this level of success. Alright, that's enough praise for her. As if she doesn't need it. She's richer than the Queen, for crying out loud. So having seen all three Fantastic Beasts, which have been written by J.K. Rowling from an original screenplay, I can say that Rowling is definitely a better novelist than she is a screenwriter. From a novelist's perspective, you are able to focus on the main character and create the world through their eyes, while also having the liberty to expand on more obscure and deeper lore that may not be integral to the protagonist's storyline. A screenwriter, on the other hand, must think of the story from a visual lens. The description would have to be concise and to the point, the dialogue included, and the interference of the studio would effectively alter the original intention of the screenwriter for marketing purposes. So I guess both the screenwriters and Warner Brothers are at fault for this one. Apparently there are going to be 2 more films in the works, but that's all dependent on the commercial success of this one. I've been highly disappointed with all 3 Fantastic Beasts series so far, which makes it really difficult for me to see if the next 2 will be any better.